Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, the United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Okay, guys, we're back. Did you miss us? Because we missed you.
Rules?
There are no rules.
What rules?
This is a revolution, damn it.
You'll hear things you've never heard before.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and what can we tell you in this weird camera setup, which I think I broke somehow. We are the Other Alliance Guys, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information around the National Wrestling Alliance, United Wrestling Network, various independents around the world, whatever you want to talk about. My name is Tim. This is Dave here in the middle. How you doing, Dave?
Doing good.
And over there on the other side of this Brady Bunch shot from the 70s, that's Jeremy. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing good for a guy who's about to be tariffed in this country. But that's on Tuesday. So until then, you can watch two American guys and a Canadian guy talk about a Mexican guy at no cost to anyone who's watching right now. Wow.
No tariffs on us.
No tariffs on
us.
No, Alliance is tariff free, so we are good. Tonight we are talking about the Alliance Wrestling Hall of Fame, where we will be arguing for and against both this gentleman, Miss Masked Luchador right here, Blue Demon, and for Damien Wayne. And I think probably most of you in the chat will know who Damien Wayne is. And, well, Jeremy's going to be Jeremy, you were arguing against Damien Wayne.
And for
Blue Demon. That's awesome.
For Blue Demon. I got my work cut out for me. It was, I have my work cut out for me there.
100%. And we also have, Jeremy's going to be talking about, the first level of hate from the 7 levels of hate series feud, blood feud, if you will, between Adam Pearce and Colt Cabana back in the day. And running down that UWN card, which will be exciting. And Dave's going to do some historical fantasy booking, asking what would have happened if the UWF hadn't gone out of business. That'll be interesting. We look forward to that. Lots of you guys in the chat already. We appreciate you being here. Willie always kicks us off. He's over here early. Tyrus is going to be in his first action-adventure movie. It's called The Septic Commando. To promote the movie, Sharman will have Tyrus's face on their toilet paper. Wow. Does he still do that Fox show, Tyrus? Is he still on there?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. Not a Fox guy.
For as big as he is, I don't see him anymore.
Yeah, that is the advantage of him being gone for sure. Our friend Sam Retro is here. Happy Sunday to you, my friend. Yo! It's like PN News. This is the way this is written. It's your boy Dev Dow. Oh man, I cannot read this without laughing. I'm just going to leave it there for a second. But we are doing well.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Yeah. I don't know where these bubbles came from that look so terribly different and what's happening with the camera feed, but I'm sure
I think they went through like an update, because there was an option for me whenever I went to sign in to add like a headline thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I originally wrote Stooge and then thought, that takes up too much space. So let's get to it. Let's get to it as we go along here with the Alliance Wrestling Hall of Fame, their most recent nominee. Before we actually get into who that particularly is and who we're going to be arguing for and against first, last week we had you guys vote over the last week on Twitter or X or whatever you have from the Alliance feed there, and also from ours at TOAG livestream. And we put Colt Cabana and the Sheik up for voting. Colt Cabana reached the 75% requirement to get into the Alliance Hall of Fame, and the Sheik didn't even come close.
Too bad.
Too bad.
As it should be.
That's right.
That's what happens when you steal stuff that doesn't belong to you.
That's right.
We're educational on this program. That's this is what happens. Yeah, just don't let the door hit you on the way out, buddy. Right?
Oh, but let me.
Yeah. Thank you very little, and please hesitate to call. Tonight, however, the next potential entrant into the Alliance Wrestling Hall of Fame is this gentleman right here, the Blue Demon. And I'm sure you all know the Blue Demon. And arguing for Blue Demon Jr., to be technical, is our friend Championship Wrestling from Jeremy. What do you got for us, Jer?
Well, the Blue Demon has had quite the storied career. And let me get to... He is the first Mexican-born NWA champion and the first luchador NWA world champion. Held the NWA world's title for an impressive 505 days, winning it from Scrap Daddy Adam Pearce in NWA Mexico, and lost it back to Pearce in a triple threat match that also included Phil Shatter. Received the Lucha Libre Award in 2018 from the Cauliflower Alley Club. Is a one-time AAA Latin American champion, a one-time IWAS World Lightweight champion, a one-time AAA Tamacos champion with La Parca Jr., Pero Gallo Jr., and Mascara Sagrada Jr., plus 10 other various championships. The name Blue Demon Jr. alone is synonymous with Lucha Libre and wrestling in general. And an induction here is a no-brainer. You can put the image of Blue Demon up, and people automatically know who that is. He has transcended the world of Lucha Libre and wrestling to where he's been in movies. At one point, Disney had plans to do a cartoon based around him and introducing an individual that would have played his niece, discovering that he was Blue Demon Jr., and then they would go on superhero adventures. That was back in 2021, I believe. That was later scrapped, and Blue Demon was replaced with Black Scorpion. But just that alone, the fact that you had the attention of Disney, that right there says that your brand, they saw the value in your brand and the character that he has built and created. He's shown up in other cartoons like Mucha Lucha. Again, just an individual that took Lucha Libre and wrestling and used that platform to transcend into mainstream consciousness and bring awareness to a niche product that is even more niche in Lucha Libre in America, and got the attention of one of the biggest companies in America, and Disney. Like the image said that Tim put up 16 different championships this man held.
Oof.
That's, Ric Flair. We were talking about it in the Discord last night. And Ric Flair's noted for holding 16 championships in the WWE, and that's the benchmark. That's the watermark that everyone's trying to reach. John Cena made the vow to break that and win 17. So 16 championships is nothing to snub your nose at. 505 days as the NWA World Champion is impressive. It's not the highest reign, but it's not a one-day reign either. And the fact that he held it speaks volumes in and of itself. Again, this is a no-brainer for me. I'm voting yes all day for the man.
There you go. That's it's a strong argument, and here to with the Republican response to that argument, perhaps.
Boo.
No, this is not a political broadcast.
Anarchy.
Resist, revolt. Anyway.
That's a revolution, damn it.
Dave, you've heard all of this crap from Jeremy. What are the reasons we shouldn't induct Blue Demon Jr.?
Well, what Jeremy had to say, a lot of it is it's true. But the thing is, the guy wears a mask. Can you trust somebody who wears a mask and is not willing to show his face or even let people know who his real identity is?
Hey, the man's just so handsome that if he were to take the mask off, the entire world would be in awe. Okay. Nothing would ever get done.
So that's one reason I don't wear a mask, because I'm not handsome. So just throw that out there. Now, he is the adopted son of the original Blue Demon, so maybe that's the reason they put a mask on him, is because the original Blue Demon didn't want people to know what he looked like or that this guy was actually his son. But he was the first Mexican and second masked wrestler to win, besides Abyss from TNA NWA. But I believe he only won the 10 pounds of gold because the match was taking place in Mexico. And they didn't want it's happened before. I mean, you were talking about Ric Flair holding the gold. When he held the gold and lost a match in Mexico, they didn't take the title back because they thought there would be an uprising, that there would be a riot. So that's another reason.
Arriba!
If you look at his stats, he's a very good wrestler, but at best he's maybe 5'10", less than 200 pounds. He's a junior heavyweight.
He held
the title for so long, 505 days, but that was during the time that Adam Pearce had become booker at ROH. So Adam was somewhat busy and didn't have time for the NWA at that time.
That's a slight against Adam Pearce, not the great Blue Demon Jr., sir.
Well, that's how you look at it. I have an if you want to borrow them. But in the actual match where Pearce lost, Pearce protested with the NWA that his arm was under the bottom rope when he ended up passing out from the single leg Boston Crab from Blue Demon Jr. So he never gave up. He passed out. There's been storylines where people pass out. They don't lose the match. They never said, I give up. Their body just gave up for them. So it's one of those things of 6 of one, half dozen of another. You can look at it that Blue Demon Jr., while he is widely known as a luchador, he was given the title when no one else could represent in Mexico at that time. And Adam Pearce was busy, quote unquote, at that time working for another company besides the NWA. But if you look at it, Blue Demon Jr. for NWA, he did okay. But his wrestling career goes on to Lucha Underground, and he's wrestled several other places, including CMLL, AAA. He's a very good wrestler, but I don't look at him. Maybe if there's a Mexican Wrestling Hall of Fame, he would belong there, but not in the Alliance Hall of Fame. While a lot of people feel he is a good wrestler, I'm not saying he's not a good wrestler. He is just not of the upper echelon. That if you say, okay, I'll give you five good wrestlers, he's number 6. He's almost at that point, but not quite there. He had a chance to build up that belt. And in my opinion, he failed because he lost the belt back to the guy he took it from. So while he is a good wrestler, his size and just his wrestling style, while Lucha is very popular in Mexico, down in Texas, California, New Mexico, Arizona, it's not worldwide. He was a good wrestler for what he did, but I just don't think he is Alliance Hall of Fame worthy. And feel free to argue me on that, but that's just my opinion, and I just feel my opinion counts for something.
Well, I don't know if you saw that, Scooby, but he was just here for a few minutes, shaking his fist at you for a while. So,
oh well,
you'll have to see that on the replay. He's pretty mad right now. You know what? Listen, not a bad argument at all. And how do we do this? There we go. Not a bad argument at all. I mean, if Chris were here, Big Chris Dog, then I think he'd be screaming his head off right now that he doesn't deserve to be in there. But there it is. We'll put the polls up directly after the show today on the Alliance Twitter or X or whatever. But we do have one more gentleman to argue for and against today. And Dave is going to be arguing for now the nomination of Damien Wayne. Go ahead, Dave.
All right. Damien Wayne is a 3-time holder of the NWA National Heavyweight Championship, former holder of the NWA North American Heavyweight Championship. He made his debut in August of 2002, wrestling mainly in the Virginia area. He's from Hampstead, Virginia. He wrestled mainly in tag teams during his early career. He competed as a quote-unquote enhancement talent, a.k.a. jobber, in the WWE, also in Ring of Honor and in Full Impact Pro. Let's see here. He made his Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators debut in February of 2011. He is one of the main dog champions. He was a NWA Continental Championship. He retained it against Vordell Walker in May of 2011 at Squared Circle Wrestling Alliance in North Carolina. He defeated Chance Prophet for the dog championship. He went on to defend the championship 50 times to date in 8 separate states to challengers, including Julio De Niro, Johnny Calzone, DJ Hyde, Vordell Walker, Cahagas, Q-Ball Carmichael, Gunner, C.W. Anderson, and Marty Jannetty. If you look at it, he was later in 2012 was involved in an 8-way elimination match for the vacant NWA 10 pounds of gold. The final 2 competitors consisted of Damien Wayne and longtime rival Chance Prophet. The national heavyweight champion Cahagas then inserted himself into the match, and in doing so, Wayne was able to eliminate Prophet, but would go on to be defeated by Cahagas. So Cahagas ended up getting that title, and Wayne was never allowed to compete for that title. He did have a 1,001 day reign as a dog champion. It was ended in February of 2014 by Dirty Money in Beverly, Massachusetts at a Northeast Championship Wrestling event. And let's see here. Some other championships that Damien Wayne held, including Tag Team Championship with C.W. Anderson for America's Most Liked Wrestling. He had the longest reign in Dog Championship Wrestling history. He was a national heavyweight champion 3 times for NWA Edge. In Virginia, he was a champion for NWA. He was a heavyweight champion and continental heavyweight champion. He was a tag champ with Michael Booth, and a Mid-Atlantic tournament champion, king of the Mid-Atlantic tournament. He was also in Smoky Mountain NWA. He was a Mid-Atlantic tag team champion. And in Pro Wrestling Illustrated, PWI ranked him in the top 500 best single wrestlers of the years in 2007, 2012, 2013, and 2015. Now, it's my belief that Damien Wayne belongs in the Alliance Hall of Fame. He's the definition of a true wrestling journeyman. While he never did hold the 10 pounds of gold, he was a mainstay in NWA wrestling and truly an indie wrestler that I believe could have done more if given the chance. But once Billy Corgan bought the NWA and started the Lightning One era, Damien Wayne was never given a chance to fully blossom and go after the 10 pounds of gold, which I feel he should have been given a chance to go after.
I had great arguments, Scoob. And, you know, some of those names you mentioned, if some of the people aren't watching or are watching are going, like, I don't even know who Dirty Money is or who Chance Prophet are. Actually, I don't think any of our audience or those people know that I'd say that out loud, but those are names that are also going to be up, like Adam Pearce was up and Colt Cabana for this the Alliance Wrestling Hall of Fame. So I think those are good references. I appreciate you, but arguing against this, man, against the gall, the audacity to argue against, like, I can't believe he's even doing this. Is Jeremy? Jeremy's arguing against Damien Wayne into the Hall of Fame. Go ahead, buddy.
So I had to weed through a lot. This is my first argument against why he shouldn't be in the Alliance Hall of Fame, because much like Willie, whenever I saw the name Damien Wayne, I immediately thought of Bruce Wayne's kid. This ain't Bruce Wayne's kid. Strike one.
Spelled slightly differently, but sure.
Was part of a tag team called the Heartbreak Express. This was in the early 2000s, not in the 80s. This guy thought that was a good name. Got beat by Cahagas, who wasn't even in the match. Fought Marty Jannetty, like Dave stated. He might need to go get checked out by a doctor. I'm just saying. Was the dog champ for 1,001 days. Very true. Very true. Couldn't hold it for 1,002. Again, not Bruce Wayne's kid. Not Bruce Wayne's kid. Not a billionaire comic book superhero's kid.
I feel like this is like Jericho armbar. Anyway, 1,004 holds.
All jokes aside, I have no Damien Wayne is again a no-brainer. There's very few people that I'm going to have to argue against throughout this that I'm really actually going to argue against. You'll know whenever I'm being serious. A man like Damien Wayne, that was a tough one to find arguments against. It just a stalwart of dog championship wrestling, a great representative of wrestling all around. Billy dropped the fucking ball and then some. I feel, as I'm sure most of you would agree. Vote yes.
Yeah, listen, the arguments against. I like that you have put aside the opinions that some people have about why he isn't in, why he didn't join the Lightning One era.
Right.
Like many people have heard and talked about why that might be, right?
Right.
And it doesn't really matter. We weren't there as often the way I like to think about it.
Exactly.
And also on the other side of that, I mean, the times that we've heard about how he was supposed to be NWA World Champion and may have been screwed out of it when you're arguing for. And again, we weren't there. We don't know. So I think these are solid arguments, guys, and it'll be I think it'll be a bit of a tougher road for Damien Wayne because he's not as mainstream as some of the other names that are going in, but I certainly think he's worthy of contention. That was fun. I appreciate it. Bruce Wayne kid is Robin. I think Damien Wayne was a Robin.
Damien Wayne was a Robin after Jason Todd.
Yeah, after Jason Todd.
Yeah.
The late Jason Todd. Okay, that was great. Thanks. Let's again go to X and tomorrow and vote in the polls if you would. We appreciate you doing that. Let your voice be heard, your vote be counted. It is entirely up to you guys. Now let's go if we can.
Tim Drake, you're right, Willie. You're right. It was Tim Drake because he knocked out Tim Drake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Let us go now to a segment we love to call Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
Attention, everyone. One.
School is in session. Oh boy, is this great!
Let me talk to you.
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
It's time for Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
The nitty-gritty.
This is a segment that Jeremy has updated for since our return to the airwaves. And he's talking about some UWA and he's talking about some old NWA. What are we talking about first, Jeremy?
First, I'm going to be touching on the level 1 of the 7 levels of hate. I sat down this morning and watched that a couple times actually, and then sat down with my laptop in front of me and watched it again and took my notes down and this match debuted on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood with Rick Knox officiating. This is the level 1 of the 7 levels of hate, as I stated. And the stipulation for this match was a first blood match. Pearce was accompanied to the ring by the family Stone, consisting of Stu Stone and Heather Lynn at the time. As the match began, Pearce attempted to get the jump on Cabana, but Cabana avoided the rush and got the early upper hand over Scrap Daddy. Cabana was the first to go for a match ender by driving Pearce's head into the bleacher steps, followed up by repeated punches to the head. Lynn got involved at this point by grabbing Cabana's ankle as he went for a running bionic elbow. This distraction interference afforded Pearce the opening he needed to finally be in control of the match. At this point, Pearce grabbed an audience member's camera and attempted to bust Cabana open, then bit Cabana's forehead, and when that was unsuccessful, drove Cabana's head into the ring post. Upon seeing that Cabana still had not started to bleed, Pearce presented Cabana with a bucket full of flowers, I believe as a sign of respect, regardless of the fact that he smacked him in the face with the bucket of flowers. Shortly afterwards, brass knuckles were added to the mix by Lynn, but Cabana was able to avoid them as he caught an airborne Pearce in the gut. Cabana went for the knuckles, but took too long, and Pearce stopped him. Stu then handed Pearce the ring bell. Again, Cabana was able to avoid the international object. This sent Pearce back up to the turnbuckles, this time looking to spike Colt with the ring bell. Cabana saw this and took advantage of the no DQ and kicked referee Rick Knox into the ropes, causing Pearce to crush the family jewels on the top turnbuckle. After an atomic drop, some well-placed chops, and a wind-up punch to Pearce, Cabana goes to finish the match by picking up the ring bell. This got Stu involved again as he grabbed Cabana's ankles, giving Pearce the opening to drop Cabana with a last ride lariat clothesline. From here, Pearce attempted a pile driver, but Cabana had it scouted and reversed it into a slingshot into the corner on Scrap Daddy. Stone got involved, again grabbing Cabana's arms. This, however, backfired for the family Stone as Cabana ducked the punch, almost causing Pearce to hit Stu. Stu's luck was short-lived, however, as Pearce ducked a Cabana punch that caught Stone, sending him off the ring apron into the arms of a rather large gentleman that caught him, like the little baby man that he was. It was amazing. It just, I've got you, little buddy. After delivering some jabs to Pearce and a bionic elbow, Scrap Daddy ended up in the corner. As Cabana charged towards him, Pearce pulled Rick Knox in the path, causing Cabana to collide with him, resulting in a ref bump. This gave Pearce an opening, and he drilled Cabana to the mat with a pile driver. From here, Pearce removed the turnbuckle cover. Pearce looked to smash Cabana's head into the exposed turnbuckle to end this brawl, but at the last second, Colt reversed the momentum and successfully bounced Scrap Daddy's head off of it, instead breaking the skin on Pearce's head. From there, Cabana snatched Pearce up by the back of the head and proceeded to repeatedly bounce Scrap Daddy's head off of a turnbuckle pad, ensuring that he would open up the cut further as referee Rick Knox made his way back into the ring and then saw the blood and called the match. The psychology of this match was fucking perfect. There was no unnecessary moves. Every move had a reason and was either a setup for or a move meant to draw blood.
Mm-hmm.
Just over 14 minutes, this was a master's class on how a match can and should be structured, regardless of it being a gimmick match. It was no DQ, and anything could have been used, but they kept it to 3 international objects: brass knuckles, a ring bell, and a bucket of flowers. Not tables, ladders, or chairs. No trash can lids or baking sheets. No plastic bags, skewers, or fucking syringes. Why? Because it wasn't needed. Again, this was a masterclass. I am so looking forward to, and when we finish this, I'm going to start watching Level 2, and I'm going to watch it every day this week. That's my goal. I plan to watch that match at least once a day, every day this week, because I want to find all the minute little details and shit that these two men came together to create that gave us the second highest rated feud of that year in a company that was all but on life support, essentially, to the wrestling community, the internet wrestling community. again, it was a masterclass. I wish I had paid more attention to it whenever I first watched it and found out about it. But shit happens, and I finally did sit down, and I'm a better wrestling fan for it.
Yeah, this was in NWA Hollywood on TV, I think. Right?
Yes, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Yep.
Here's I think this is from it. I think from that particular match.
Yes.
So Colt Cabana, yeah. Go ahead, Jeremy.
It again. If you haven't watched it, sit down and do yourself a favor. If you have watched it, sit down and do yourself a favor and expose your brain to it again. Remember.
It just
like anything. The more you watch it, the more you'll pick up.
Yeah.
It's not like you pointed out. I love that you went into looking at the psychology of this. It is good old fashioned wrestling as we grew up with. It is, the setup for this is, it's kind of the title versus if Pearce for the
title versus career, essentially.
His career. He has to leave the NWA at the end if he doesn't win.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good old fashioned wrestling. They gave you a reason to give a fuck.
Exactly, and that crowd, while not an arena, a stadium, a coliseum, even a fucking bingo hall, even it sounded like it. It sounded like they were in an arena. That crowd was 100% invested in everything.
I say this every time, and I'm sorry, but like PWI, like as you pointed out, because someone else pointed out, PWI Sam was covering this feud, and with no eyes on the NWA, really, nobody's really watching other than the most hardcore faithful. PWI gave it the third runner-up for feud of the year that year. That's how good this was. If no one's watching and they went, you need to pay attention to this.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%.
And guys, one of the things is if you don't know about Colt Cabana and you only know that, he's a quote unquote comedy wrestler and he had the Art of Wrestling podcast and he jokes a lot. Colt Cabana is the ultimate professional wrestler. He can fit any style. And if all you know is his comedy and his quote unquote fun wrestling and his mass wrestler, Matt Classic, this is a chance to see another side of him. He's an absolute massive, he's a beast in the ring.
Yeah.
That this brought out the best in both of these guys. And once you get to that 7th level, what happened there, that was the cherry on top, the icing on the cake. But if you only know Colt Cabana as a comedy wrestler or as a smiley guy, always having fun, this is a step in the opposite direction.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where you'll watch us and you'll be like jaw dropped and just be like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is just one of 7 matches that they had. And this was insane that they did this all in a short span of time and with no real push behind them.
Yeah.
The NWA was a promotion, but it wasn't a national promotion.
Right.
It was like a super indie, if you could look at it that way. But they didn't have the TV, they didn't have the money behind them, but somebody was watching them. And if you were lucky enough to see this live, this is one of those things that, I'd give my right arm to see some of these matches that we talk about. I would have loved to have seen them live and in their heyday.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Jeremy will go into it like what is happening behind the scenes at part of this, like during the 7 levels of hate that kind of fucks up the 7 levels for a bit. It still ends the way it should. Well, I mean, like you said, we won't talk about it here, but it ends in a wild fashion. But the stuff that goes on, you know, that is driven by people beyond the 2 guys who really give a shit about it. There's 2 guys in the ring. Is a wild story too. Great, awesome. What's going on in the UWN, Jer?
Well, not a lot.
Wait, UWN.
What I've heard so far is that there was a match pitched that was going to happen between UWN champion Danny Limelight and One Slice Boogie. I'm now hearing that may not be the case.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened there. We are looking at Scorpio Sky versus Ice Williams at that upcoming event, as well as the Zaddies versus the Infantry. That's about all that I have at the moment. As I come across more, I'll say more. I'm sure that more will come across the wire as we do get closer to the day. That day again is the 25th of this month. If you are in the Irvine area, pick up a ticket. Dave Marquez will love you for it, and so will the talent. And I'll thank you. I may even send you a cookie. It'll be an emoji cookie, but you know.
I'm with Sam here. No, I've been waiting on Booty versus Limelight for like 2 years. Yeah.
Same.
And
Same. And I'm hoping,
yeah.
I'm hoping that they're able to work something out and get business done. But yeah. I don't know.
Don't know either. We'll keep our ear to the particular ground. About interrupting the 7 levels of hate, the baffled that anybody would want to interrupt it. The NWA, you guys think it's a shit show now, like the way that it was with the board and, you know, who wants this and who's put.
It was a Game of Thrones, essentially.
Yeah.
Everyone was vying for top position and every aspect of the company at that point, essentially.
Willie wants the tag team Anchors Away back in the UWN. I don't know them.
I don't either. Who were they, Willie?
We'll wait for Willie. But he also wants, and I think he means for the Hall of Fame, Kojima!
We love Brett here. Kojima will have his day in the sun.
Yes, he is a nominee. You know what, Willie? For next week, we'll put him up and we'll let Jeremy argue him, and so he can scream Kojima into the rafters.
Kojima! I will make sure to have various breads.
There you go. Enjoy some bread.
I'll get some Resto too, maybe.
Ooh. Let us do some historical fantasy booking with our friend Dave Scooby. In a segment that we love to call I Respect You, Booker Man, which I do. Dave, what if the UWF hadn't gone out of business?
Well, this is one of those things that it had, I believe, just under 6 years in existence. The UWF, the Universal Wrestling Federation, I'm going to call it 2.0 because back in 1986, Bill Watts, who had Mid-South Wrestling, he renamed Mid-South Wrestling to the Universal Wrestling Federation, but he forgot to register Universal Wrestling Federation with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
Yeah.
So Herb Abrams was able to use it to launch an unrelated wrestling promotion by the same name. And if you're a fan of Dark Side of the Ring, and you watched, I believe it was Cocaine and Cowboy Boots.
Yeah.
It was one of the highest rated episodes of Dark Side of the Ring. Now, the Universal Wrestling Federation under Herb Abrams was an American professional wrestling promotion that operated from 1990 to almost the end of 96. The company aired nationally on Sports Channel America, was later on Prime Ticket and ESPN2. And it's one of these things that the UWF back in 1990 was brought into existence by Herb Abrams to try and challenge Vince McMahon's WWF on a national level. Now, in 1990, that was a few years after Ted Turner had bought JCP and had renamed it World Championship Wrestling. And they were no longer JCP or Georgia Championship Wrestling. They were the number 2. Well, UWF under Herb Abrams was going for number 3, if not number 2, and was trying to go after the big dogs, Vince and Ted at that time. Now, Herb Abrams announced that the promotion's formation, it was at John Arezzi's Wrestling Fans Fantasy Weekend Convention in August of 1990. And having no experience in the wrestling business, Abrams was given a budget of $1 million back in 1990 by Sports Channel America to develop a weekly TV series, which would become known as UWF Fury Hour. Now, the first Fury Hour tapings were held at the Reseda Country Club in the fall of 1990, and it featured established stars such as Billy Jack Haynes, Bob Orton Jr., B. Brian Blair, Cactus Jack, Colonel De Beers, Dan Spivey, David Sammartino, Don Morocco, Ivan Koloff, Ken Patera, Paul Orndorff, and Dr. Death Steve Williams. Some top homegrown talent included Wild Thing Stevie Ray and Cutie Pie Louis Spicoli before he was taken away from us later in the 90s. Bruno Sammartino and Lou Albano were hired as commentators for the UWF. So there were some big names in the UWF at that time, former big-time wrestlers that had been in the WWF and would eventually go back or go on to wrestle in the WWF and WCW. Now, the promotion held a taping in New York City at the New York Penta in January of 91. That was plagued with legal issues. The WWF sent cease and desist orders to the UWF after Honky Tonk Man and Rick Rude appeared on camera. Both had recently walked out of the WWF, but were still under contract. Now, Honky Tonk Man would later explain that the check he received from Abrams bounced, and he filed a formal complaint with the New York State Athletic Commission to get reimbursed. Now, Abrams, while not a wrestling professional, he hired Howard Brody, the owner of Ladies Major League Wrestling, to help him expand UWF into the Florida market in mid-91. Following several house shows and a TV taping at Universal Studios Florida, Brody was entrusted with finding a venue for the promotion's first pay-per-view in June of 91. Brody suggested the Odeum Expo Center in Chicago. Abrams insisted on holding Beach Brawl at the Manatee Civic Center in Florida. The pay-per-view was a disaster in both attendance and buys, and following Beach Brawl, Abrams ran one final TV taping at the Memorial Auditorium before before running out of fresh footage for the Fury Hour being shown on TV. He struck a deal with Brody to use some footage of Ladies Major League Wrestling to fulfill his content creation to Sports Channel America, and they later parted ways in the fall of 91. Now, Abrams only ran 3 more shows after the Sports Channel America deal expired in late 91, this being in June of 92 and July of 93 at the North Dakota State Fair. Now, some of these were just to fulfill some contracts, and they ended up doing some pay-per-views like Blackjack Brawl at the Las Vegas MGM Grand Garden Arena in September of 94. Now, it was a critical disaster in both attendance and reception by the wrestling community. Abrams later left to go back to New York City to care for his ailing mother in December of 94, and Al Burke was put in charge of UWF. Later on in 95, ESPN2 aired old episodes of The Fury Hour and Thunder Hour, as well as in that time, AWA was also shown on ESPN and ESPN2, as well as ESPN Classic. In February of 96, St. Valentine's Day Massacre was scheduled to be broadcast live from the Grand Olympic Auditorium on Prime Sports Network, but was canceled, and Abrams basically left everybody high and dry. His cocaine addiction had drained the company of money needed to produce such events as these pay-per-views. Abrams died of a cocaine-related heart attack in July of 96 while still in New York. Albert claimed ownership of the tape library following Abrams' death, and in 2002, Burke ended up partnering with Classic Wrestling to repackage and license the library through DirecTV and ESPN Classic Canada. Dark Side of the Ring aired an episode focusing on UWF entitled Cocaine and Cowboy Boots, the Herb Abrams Story, back in May of 2020. Now, Abrams' own demons were too much for him to handle, and that cost him dearly. Like I said, he passed away on July 23rd, 96 in Manhattan, New York, of a heart attack while in police custody. And the autopsy showed he had cocaine and volume in his system when he died. Now, the Wrestling Observer had given him various awards, but I wouldn't say any of them were good or helped the product of UWF. In 1990, it was the worst TV announcer, Herb Abrams. 91, the worst promotion of the year, the UWF. 91, also the worst TV show, Fury Hour. 91, the most obnoxious, Herb Abrams. In 1994, the worst Major League Wrestling show, Blackjack Brawl. Things didn't look good. Some of the people that he had wrestling for him was a who's who of wrestling back in the day. But it's one of these things that you can't fix stupid. Herb Abrams, if he had hired somebody to help, he could have just been a figurehead. But if he had hired somebody that had knowledge of wrestling and how to produce it, he was just going for the big kill and wasn't prepared for what was going on. Some of the names that he ended up bringing in included Andre the Giant, Bob Backlund, Bam Bam Bigelow, the Killer Bees, B. Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell, Brian Clark, a.k.a. the Night Stalker, a.k.a. Adam Bomb in the WWF. Also Sid Vicious, Cactus Jack, Terry Gordy, Billy Jack Haynes, Johnny Ace, Don Morocco, Paul Orndorff, Ken Patera was there. Also the Koloffs, Ivan and Nikita, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, the Warlord, Jimmy, Larry Sabisco, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, Colonel De Beers, the Patriot, Greg Valentine, also some female wrestlers he brought in, Tina Moretti, who you may know as Ivory in the WWF and WWE, Miss Texas, Jacqueline Moore, Rockin' Robin, Luna Vachon. He also had, for some reason, he had a midget wrestling title. He had midget wrestling, but he only had 2 midget wrestlers. So it was one or the other. It really didn't make sense to just only have 2 wrestlers of that quote unquote for that title, for that division. But the guy was on cocaine, and I'm not saying from personal experience you do crazy shit while you're on cocaine, but
it's a hell of a drug.
It's a hell of a drug.
A hell of a drug.
Now, like I said, if you had put a team together, Herb Abrams just being that figurehead of the company, with some luck, the UWF could have been in the top 5 wrestling companies back in the 90s. You had WWF, WCW, the top 2 spots. ECW was there. Then maybe, you had USWA and Global Wrestling Federation, who had replaced the Von Erichs WCCW down in Dallas. AWA had also folded in late 80s, early 90s. So there was room for other promotions, but Abrams' lack of experience in pro wrestling and his cocaine addiction, it was a very bad business decision to let him run it. He had the money, and being paid $1 million back in 90, that was a lot of money back then. But a lot of the bad decisions, including booking large venues and not even filling them to a 5%. The UWF had no prayer of selling out these large venues. They were trying to sell a pay-per-view that turned out to be a financial disaster. They had some name talent that would later find their way either back to the WWF and WCW or make their way into ECW. Now, his lack of wrestling experience and inability to navigate the inner workings of the business was also going to work against him.
Yep.
He was larger than life. He was an over-the-top character, but it was one of those things. It didn't help him in being a successful businessman. He became almost like a second-rate promoter because his aim was so high. He never really had a chance to achieve it. If he would have started off slow and built his way up, it was one of those things that he was shooting from the hip, and he didn't have very good aim. Now, in my opinion, if the UWF had succeeded, it could have potentially created a significant force in professional wrestling, almost disrupting the dominance of WWF and WWE later on, and WCW. That TNA may never have come around. So it's one of these things. It was offering a different style of wrestling at that time. It was more athleticism and not cartoony. It was more of a real presentation. That you look at some of the wrestlers, they were bigger than life, but they weren't comical. But I believe their success would have largely depended on making smarter business decisions and managing the roster more efficiently. And Abrams, he basically needed help. He didn't have the experience that if he would have brought in maybe Jerry Jarrett to help, somebody that had a name and had experience to help manage the roster more effectively. His initial approach was riddled with just poor booking and mismanagement of the finances. He tried to make it to the mountaintop right offhand, and it wasn't going to happen. Now, the potential impacts, if he was successful, you'd have a more diverse wrestling product. He did more of a shoot-style wrestling experience, which could have appealed to fans that were looking for something different. It could have also forced the established companies to improve their product product quality, be more competitive in terms of talent acquisitions and storylines, not so much off the wall characters. But I mean, who doesn't love a wrestling trash man? But Duke Droese was a good wrestler, just not as a wrestling trash man. Give him a good gimmick and he could have gone somewhere. But it's one of those things that with more competition, I think wrestlers would have had more leverage to negotiate for better contracts. And this would have been back before Eric Bischoff had taken over WCW, and there could have been 3 or 4 battles for the top. It's one of these things that the major challenges that could have, that in my opinion, hindered the success of the UWF were poor business practices. Abrams made hasty decisions. He struggled with the finances. He wasn't a money guy. He had some money or had access to it, but he could have been thrifty at some times. And he had difficulty in attracting top talent. He would spend so much money in bringing them in. And it was very hard for him to build a strong roster. He did have some names that he had brought in, but he had lack of marketing and branding. That it's one of these things that if you know these wrestlers as former WWF and WCW and AWA stars and wrestlers from the WW or WCCW, it's one of those things that if you would have partnered with somebody that knew what they were doing, their presentation and marketing were often criticized because they weren't comparable to the more established promotions. And overall, while successful, if they would have been successful, they could have had a possibility of altering the wrestling landscape. And now it's important to remember that the failure stemmed largely from poor business decisions and not a flawed concept. This was one of those things that Paul Heyman did. He was on a shoestring budget, but he made the best of highlighting the wrestlers' good points and hiding their bad points.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things that if they could have put the UWF as a viable alternative to established wrestling, that could have been one of those things that what if it could have happened. If he would have actually brought somebody in that could have controlled what was happening and just had Abrams as a figurehead in storyline only, I think they could have survived maybe another 4 or 5 years. And if the right person would have been able to take over booking, they could have possibly bought Abrams out and UWF could have succeeded. Who knows where it would have gone, but some of the names I named, they're very, very good wrestlers. It's one of those things that given the right chance, I think things could have worked out, but Abrams was always going for top of the mountain right off the get-go. And I think if they would have built it up and just taken it slowly, they would have gotten a lot more respect and a lot more eyes on their product. But it's one of those things that this is a what if. What if they would have succeeded? It would have been good. And who knows, a lot of the wrestlers that have passed on have wrestled for UWF as well as WCW, ECW, and WWF, WWE. So it's one of those things that you look and go, well, what if this had happened? It may have shortened their career, or it may have extended their career. But it's one of those things that you're looking at. What if the UWF had succeeded? I think it would have been a good thing, and it may have put both the WWE right now and WCW back then and ECW back then on a different trajectory. So who knows what would have happened, but it's a scary story. If you have a chance to watch Dark Side of the Ring, go on YouTube and just check out Cocaine and Cowboy Boots. It's one of their very best episodes.
Maybe the best. Yeah, that's true. So maybe the lesson here is if you got an owner who demands that he does all of the booking himself and maybe gets into the nose candy a little too much, you might not be all that successful. Unless you're a billionaire, I guess.
Wait, I thought we were talking about Herb Abrams, not Tony Khan.
I saved all of these comments for now for you, Scoob. One of them from our own gentleman here, Jeremy, said if the UWF hadn't got under Herb, would have been almost single-handedly been responsible for using most of the cocaine coming out of Bolivia and Colombia. Was the mid-2000s UWF with Hermie Sadler any connection? No, not even Universal. Hermie Sadler was United, I believe.
United.
United Wrestling Federation, yeah.
He was, if you guys don't know him, he was a race car driver. Like, he was involved with TNA for a while.
Yep. Yeah, and Global Force.
Global Force, right? One of those companies even sponsored his racing team at one point.
Yeah.
He was like a politician, but yeah, he was United Wrestling Federation. I saw another one that was similar down below. UWF International took the shoot style and ran with it. He wasn't part of that. No. UWF was something else. I forget what that stood for, but International was a Japanese promotion, and it was a clunky wording of, whatever it was anyway. Not the same owner, to my knowledge.
Wasn't it like fucking Unified Wrestling Foundation or something? Or
it was something crazy like that. I don't know. Yeah. Where are the rest here? That was the UWF with Sadler. Watching UWF in real time, Roz says, was confusing. I didn't understand why NWA talent was appearing there. I was maybe around a 6 or 7, maybe 8. This was early on. I wondered if this was the NWA UWF from that you mentioned in the beginning, from Mid-South. And before my time, before I had any access to tapes or satellite or anything. So I'm sure that was bizarre. Yeah, there is a lot of comparisons to Tony Khan here. Although, I mean, I don't know what goes on in that guy's particular head. He doesn't have to make money. Go ahead, Jeremy.
UWF International was Union of Wrestling Forces International.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just clunky. I don't know.
Super odd.
Yeah, Herb snorted up half the money. I'm probably more.
Probably 99% of it, with as many people as he ended up stiffing and shit, and venues and stuff.
Some of the footage looks like that. Do you guys know that? Yeah.
I would drop it down to say maybe 80% because he spent a lot on hookers too.
Yeah.
And baby oil. He would splashing baby oil long before Diddy was.
Yeah. Allegedly at the shows, bringing the hookers in there as well. So, I mean, there you go. I've only seen a handful of DSOTR. I'll definitely check out this episode. Oh, Dark Side of the Ring. I'll definitely check out the episode. It's totally worth it, Devin. It's
yep.
I do remember as a late teenager, I remember hearing about the Herb Abrams shit going on, and right around that time, I was introduced to the bit Cocaine.
Oh yeah,
comedian, and my fucking mind just went blank on his name, and I feel ignorant now.
That's the worst when you're trying to make a point.
JoJo Dancer, it's right there. Who was the comedian? He fucking burned himself up with freebase cocaine. Richard Pryor, damn it. So I got introduced to his skit Cocaine right around the time that I was learning about the Herb Abrams stuff as a teenager. And I used both of those as cautionary tales as to never touch that stuff. Because, again, cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Yep.
And it makes you do some fucked up shit.
Yeah. Yeah. It always reminded me like those shows, and I've only ever seen them in tape. You might have given me one of the tapes, Dave. I don't remember the ones that you gave me in New Jersey, but there's a UWF tape I've got somewhere, like a CD, a DVD rather, that has some UWF stuff on it, and it always struck me as like how did you get these names? Some of these names, and I know that at the time they were gotten, they weren't always like available, like they weren't in WWF or E, and like they had kind of come down the run, but there were some big names that you mentioned in there, right? Like, and it always seemed like, how did you get these guys in the goddamn bingo hall? Like it seemed so cheaply produced for a guy with so much money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree. If there had been some stability there, Sam says Richard Pryor was a funny motherfucker. Yes, he was. Potentially the greatest of all time. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe I blanked on his name like I did.
I've never seen nor heard of JoJo Dancer. I don't know.
Dancer, Your Life is Calling. It was a autobiographical retelling of his upbringing. Man was raised in a brothel.
I just looked it up. The film came out 6 years after Pryor had set himself on fire while freebasing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Harlem Nights. Harlem Nights is a great movie.
There was there was a bit, I can't remember who it was, but there was a bit where you'd light a match and you'd let it burn about halfway down, then you'd blow it out. What's that? It's Richard Pryor running down the street.
Oh man!
Wow. It's something else. We got anything else? Anything else we're supposed to be talking about tonight before I call it a day? It doesn't look like it, other than to say, what's that?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. Other than to say where we are on the socials, this is important. We need you guys to pay attention, at least just this one time. Where can they find? Well, they can find us on Blue Sky and on X.
Yes.
At TOAG livestream. Please come to follow us. It's difficult. Like, it was probably not the best idea for us to like just create a channel that was beside the Alliance channel. But we have some fun stuff up there that we put up once in a while. Where can they find you, Dave?
You can find me on X and Blue Sky at Dave Scooby. Also over on Instagram at, I believe, at Dave Scooby as well. I'm not sure. I check them maybe once or twice a week, or if I have something stupid to post, post it.
Yeah, you got some funny shit. Jeremy, got you on here. What are you pitching this week?
You can find me over on the Twitter machine at HJWOTS, on Blue Sky at Alliance Jeremy, and you can find me on Facebook by searching either Championship Wrestling from Jeremy, I believe, or Jeremy Miller.
Yeah. You can't find me on Facebook or Twitter, X or Instagram currently. I'm not there anymore, but I am on Blue Sky. Under Alliance Gold, where I'm putting up some belt stuff. So it's tough to start over, and Blue Sky is kind of the way for that. It's the only place you can find me right now, anyway. But join us on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Well, not us, but the original Alliance guys. That's also TOAG, the original Alliance guys. That is an infringement of our trademark. J-Cal will be hearing from our attorneys shortly. No, the Alliance guys podcast with J-Cal, DKM, and Jaden. We should have had Jaden on the show to talk about Damien Wayne, with his involvement helping Dr. Zirconium with the events. Not the Dog doesn't put on cards or matches; they put on events.
That's right.
And every Tuesday at 5 Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, it's the pre-party for Jay before Power. I keep meaning to join that for the to watch along. Yeah, Boo Sky. What do you mean Boo Sky? It's exactly like Twitter, but without Elon. I get it.
It's just like Twitter, but no Nazis.
My wife and I use it for cat pictures. That's the God's honest truth. You can find Tyrus at Popeye's Chicken. Tyrus at. That would be hilarious.
I did hear through the grapevine that Tyrus is starting to rent out real estate on his ass and back. So you may be able to find a Popeye's Chicken on Tyrus.
There you go. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the Alliance out overall. Please share. Just even giving a like helps Jay grow the channel, where he's almost 6,000 strong right now and still growing.
Yeah.
I think when we started, we were at it was 2,000, something like that. And it's just so much fun to be a part of it with you guys. So, until next time, and until there's tariffs elsewhere, they'll never be here. We'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.